Alright, I couldn't really do anything yesterday because of my eyes. I had to stay away from the screen, so ended up not doing anything after the stream. Oh yeah, I was gonna set the alarm, so I guess I'm gonna do it now. And spend 2 hours here. Then I'm gonna. Not sure if today I'm gonna stream more time because I have other things to do off stream. But yeah, I was thinking about uh, researching the network object the same way that I do in Python now, using some library, but I'm not sure. I think JavaScript might be a little bit different because I don't think that you have to download the libraries to run them, because you just use the site here, the link that's on top of the page. So I have to research that. And I think I already tried to copy and paste this here and didn't got this stuff. So I guess this is the page that has the all the functions as the code for the object there. You just have to understand how it works in practice. Yeah, if I do a control F here, works. You can copy and paste this as well in the code editor and pretty print. I'm gonna put some music. I think the easiest way is probably to modify the template on Pyvis and add the extra things that I want. I'm not sure if that's gonna override the functionality though. That's the problem. The best way in my mind would be to replace the interaction functionality that already exists with the stuff that I want, because the interaction contains the key bindings. Obviously, I would like to add more than, if it's possible, than just using the arrow keys. Add extra things on the keyboard that perform different functions on the nodes. So not only I want to modify the interaction section, I want to add more key buttons. The thing is, I couldn't find videos as well of people using just this library by itself, which is kind of weird because usually someone has done something with the library before. Interaction. Yeah, this is exactly what I want. Maybe what I can do is just passing their interactions with a function on it. That's an idea. Because I think the way that it works is on Pyvis at least. I'm not sure if that's the way that it works with the template, but when you just trying to navigate to the page. If I go through here. Okay, so this is the options. It's in the bottom here. So I think the way that it works is because last night I modified this stuff and modified the options in the page here. I think the way that it works is pretty much this creates the object there. It becomes the object of interaction in the template at the end. And whatever it is, so it's, instead of being drag nodes equals, it's going to be drag nodes then two dots. And but that's the thing that I'm not sure. If I put a function there, will it run the function instead? I don't think so, because probably these values are just related if the stuff is on or not. That might be the case here. I don't think they control what happens when you turn them on or off. They just control if it's on or off. So I have to find a way to change the functionality of it. Ideally through Python. Thing is, I don't want to see just the options. I want to see the source code. It has to be working actually, because the interactions goes into the arguments to create a network object. So it has to be a method inside the network that dictates what happens in this key event listeners. It's just a matter of figuring out which method is doing what, and if it's possible to create something in Python that modifies that object when it renders. I think the way to do that is probably to add the once I find the method, I can just add on the Jinja 2 template and then add the Python stuff. to render that once it loads, to change the functionality. I think that's the way to do it. So maybe I should search how to, maybe full options. I should search how to get source code from JavaScript. I think I'm gonna open the VS Code. Because PyCharm, I think, doesn't support JavaScript and HTML for coding. Maybe I should open the same project and create a file there to explore. Or maybe I should just copy the stuff from the link and pretty print. Might be the easiest way. I don't remember or know really well how methods inside classes work on JavaScript. Oh, I can just use the set options through the JSON formatting stuff in Pyvis. I don't even need to use the interaction thing. Just realized this. So once you change things here, you want these changes to be as default when the graph loads. You can just print this and put it on inside the set options method. I think that's probably an easier way because this is already formatted in probably JSON. No, this is not formatted in JSON. The function takes this and formats it in JSON. So it's probably easiest to just copy this and add the extra functionality inside of this. But I think I'm gonna have to do it in, unless I can figure out, I can think about a way to do the function in Python and pass it here. I don't think through here I'm not gonna be able to. This is a list of all events in the public API. They are collected from all individual modules, powered by the interaction module. Oh, these ones I've seen on the template. I have to think because what I actually want to do is change the functionality of the source code. So I have to think if there's a way to do that in JavaScript. I don't want to change the methods themselves, I just want to change what they do. And I think that so far I suspect that the only way to do that is to actually change the code in the V's JS stuff. Just trying to see if I can get it through here somehow. But apparently I can't. To get the object. So that's what I'm gonna do. First I'm gonna see if there are videos. Probably is JavaScript. Work. And there's only videos talking about other libraries, I guess. The other option I have is actually to create a different. I can copy and paste this on. I can pre-print this, and then I can modify whatever I want after I find the thing, and then I can link to a different page when I'm loading the thing instead of linking to this one. If I can't, if it's not possible to modify the JavaScript, or if it's too hard to modify the JavaScript through Python. Because the issue with doing this way is that I'm gonna have to change every time I want to change the functionality of the thing. I'm gonna have to change through Vue.js and through modifying this file here. And I would like to be able to do it through Python directly. Because for each thing that you wanna do with the graph, you probably wanna have different attributes, let's say, when you press buttons. So I think I'm gonna search for how to. Maybe I'll watch a video first. If there isn't videos, I'm gonna search for how to inspect JavaScript source code on libraries. I think there is a lot of stuff that I can do with the graphs, but I'm not sure if it's a waste of time because the way that I'm imagining it should be and what is that actually gonna be is very different. But one thing I was thinking about is creating machine learning algorithms based on those graphs. And also neural network visualization to improve the design of things. But it might be not the way that I'm thinking about because the graph is just for human visualization and understanding because the connections are higher dimensional. You wouldn't need the graph to do anything. And the connections are arbitrary because the person that is building it is the one that is controlling how the connections are made. But maybe there are ways to do it so that you create the you take, like, for example, a blueprint from some geometrical structures like the Mandelbrot set, for example, and then you use that to create the edges between the links and maybe design stuff like that where you're inputting the code or something, but you're restricting through the graphical representation of something else to see what happens. Then abstract that after the graph is done, abstract the information and try to run either the network or the code or whatever you're trying to run. Yeah, the JavaScript is different because it's on the browser, so that's the thing. You should start from the beginning. And adding the attributes to nodes is probably not that important when it comes to what I just talked about of creating new features based on geometry and stuff like that. But I think the capability of just being able to do whatever I want with the nodes and the edges and the colors is probably going to be very useful in case the other stuff is useful. Because then you can just think about extra functionality like highlighting different nodes depending on whatever you're doing. Like building a bunch of scripts on top of the visualization. I'll be right back. I'm gonna change the folder from VS Code here. And then I'll be right back. I'll be right back.
And 45, and in this video we're going to talk about JavaScript libraries. Alright then gang, so essentially a JavaScript library is just a chunk of JavaScript code that we can utilize to help out with our own code. Imagine this scenario. You want to create some kind of drag and drop feature on your website. Well, guess what guys, somebody's already done that. They've already written JavaScript for that, and they've packed it into this thing called a JavaScript library so that we can link to that file and we can use their functionality in our own script. So, what would normally take about 100 lines of code would now take about 2 or 3. We're lazy as JavaScript developers. That's right, we don't want to write something that's already been written, so why not utilize other people's work? That's what JavaScript libraries are all about. Now, there's libraries for pretty much anything you can think of in JavaScript. General purpose libraries, animation, form enhancement, videos, plus tons more. There's literally thousands of libraries on the internet and more added each day. Now, by far the most popular library, and the one I'm going to talk about in this tutorial, is jQuery. Alright guys, so there's a reason jQuery is so popular, and put it simply, it's freaking awesome. it can do a lot of things in JavaScript. So what I've done is come over to jQuery. Now CDN just stands for Content Delivery Network. And essentially, guys, that means that jQuery are hosting it themselves someplace so that you don't have to. So we can click this link right here, and then I'm going to use jQuery 1. We're going to get the minified version, which is just a smaller squashed version of the jQuery. It does exactly the same. And when you click on it, guys, you're going to get something a bit like this. It just looks like a lot of random characters, essentially just some junk squashed up together. That, my friends, is jQuery. So what we're going to do is just come over here and grab this. We're going to copy that URL, and I'm going to link this up in our HTML file so we can use it in our JavaScript. Alright then, so as you can see, I've got my HTML file open right here, and I'm just going to link to that jQuery file I grabbed the link from. So, first thing I want to do is say script, and then I'm going to give this a source attribute because we're linking to an external JavaScript file. I'm going to paste that URL right there and close the tag. And now, guys, that is it. We have linked jQuery into this file, so now we can use it within our own JavaScript files. One thing to notice, which is really, really important, I've loaded jQuery above my own test.js file because test.js file depends on this. And if you've got a file which depends on jQuery, you need to put it under jQury. Alright then, so once we've done that, I want to talk you through this HTML. Now, that's simple. We've got a div with an ID of content, and within that div, I've got some paragraph tags. At the bottom, we've got this one that says grab me. I'm going to use, and this is one area where jQuery really
load things though through this JavaScript. Oh, I can use the inspect to print. I'll remember. Sources. There we go. There we go. Now we're talking. I don't use VS Code that much, so I'm not sure. Nice. So now what I have to do is figure out the network X. I think it is on network, the name. Network. No, new viz dot network. Thing is, I'm not sure if it's in this file or not. It probably isn't. I don't think I can use Control B here. So let me. Doesn't feel like it should be this. Okay, works. Maybe not. Don't know if it went through the definition or not.
CSS, we'll say mypara2.css, and then we pass in an object between the brackets, and here we can control the CSS properties. I'll say position relative, and we'll say color red. And now it's giving it these properties in the CSS, color red, and, oh, there we go, that's why we couldn't see it, it was highlighted, and position relative. Now we can also animate things, and this is similar to CSS. We still pass in CSS attributes or CSS properties that we want to animate, but it does so smoothly. So let's do that. We'll say mypara2.animate, and we'll say, pass in the object left 50 pixels. And you can see now it skipped to the left and it kind of slid over. It did just go there. It animated across. All right, then, guys. So they are a few of the functions we've got. This is really just touching or scratching the surface of jQuery. There's tons more we can do in it, and certainly loads more than I can cover in one video. So what I'm going to do is a whole playlist on jQuery in the future. In fact, the very near future. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, if you have any questions about JS libraries in general or what you've seen here, feel free to comment down below. I'll answer all of your questions. Otherwise, guys, if you enjoy these videos, don't forget to subscribe and also share and like the videos. I'll see you in the next one.
Control F12. This is the way. So I guess this is the main thing, maybe? It really shows that I have a lot more practice in Python than JavaScript. Even though I know JavaScript, the basic stuff, I haven't practiced that much. Not as much as I did with Python. If I can pass the object that changes the options in the network, it should be possible to also modify the source code through Python. Just using the Jinja stuff. Because whatever, I can do whatever I want actually in Python as long as I know how to translate that to Jinja. And I just have to understand the reverse process in JavaScript first, understand how the object is being created, how does it change the functions, which I think it's worth it. It's probably gonna take me some time, but it's probably worth it, because then already it's gonna be like training JavaScript already. You just have to think about how to search for what I want to know. Maybe you can just search for how to figure out where an object comes from. I think I can close this now. Maybe I'll search for how this Cloudflare stuff works first, because
Hi folks, in this video we're going to be talking about Cloudflare. Cloudflare is a CDN, a content delivery network. It's also a proxy. And what I mean by proxy is I mean that when somebody goes to my site, .com for example, they're first going to go through Cloudflare and all of Cloudflare's optimizations before they actually hit your server. This is a great thing because Cloudflare offers a firewall, speed optimizations, which include caching and deferring of JavaScript, as well as a CDN, which means that if I'm in California and I'm pulling a website that's normally based in New York City, with Cloudflare, it's going to actually pull the static assets like CSS and images from a cached server in California closer to that user. So what that does in the long run is just make sure that all of your website content, all your application content gets delivered to that client, to that browser, faster than it normally would without a CDN. So long story short, what you have to do is set up Cloudflare. You go to your GoDaddy registrar, your Namecheap registrar, whichever one you use. Recommend Namecheap, but regardless, you click on your domain, you go to your name servers within that domain. You can find articles on where to find your name servers for each of these registrars just by doing a quick Google search. Once you find your name servers, you simply just update those name servers to whichever name servers Cloudflare is telling you to use. You can see here these are the two name servers that it's telling me to use. I would update this in Namecheap for both my NS1 or NS2 type of records. So just updating that in Namecheap or Cloudflare will do the trick. And now all of your domain DNS will be managed through Cloudflare. What do I mean by that? Instead of your DNS records, which you can see I have two of those here for breakfix.space, both the www as well as just the a record for the non-www in Cloudflare. Those can normally be managed through a registrar like GoDaddy or Namecheap, and we don't want that because if we don't change our name servers to Cloudflare, we can't take advantage of the optimizations that I'm going to go into shortly. Before I do that, also, just know it's super easy to add a new site to Cloudflare. You literally just go to add site, you enter your domain here, it goes through a quick scan. Once it does that, you click continue setup, and then when you do that, it'll take you over to a screen like this, where it'll show you the records that it found. Just verify or validate that you have indeed grabbed all of your records from your previous domain registrar, GoDaddy, Namecheap, etc. Verify that all of those records are in there. If so, just click continue, and then that way, when you do update your name servers in GoDaddy or in GoDaddy or Namecheap, it will ensure that nothing goes down, your website doesn't go down, you don't lose any subdomains or any redirects or anything like that you might have set up. So I'm not going to go into that because that's pretty straightforward.
I think I understand the difference now. If I want to do it locally, I have to download through NPM. And that's how I'm going to be able to import. And then instead of using that CDN from the template, I can change that to use the files that I have on my computer instead. Because I think the CDN is activating an API somewhere that runs the code on this file. Something like that. I'm not sure how that's how it works. That's probably what I'm gonna be doing. I'm gonna activate. I'm gonna follow the instructions on this Git page. Then I'm gonna put everything on my computer, and then I'm gonna change the template file from Pyvis to use those files instead. And then I can investigate how the object is created, and I can investigate as well how to change the Jinja initial formatting of the template to do the things that I want. That's probably the way.
I already have breakfix.space already set up. In this video, I'm instead going to go through each of these options here and tell you why I choose certain settings, when to turn them on, when to turn them off, so on and so forth. So let's start with the overview tab here. This is indeed exactly that, just an overview. The only reason I usually end up using this tab is mainly for this toggle here. So under attack mode, obviously, if your website's under attack, if you're running something like Crunchbase or TechCrunch or something along those lines, which by the way, both of those websites actually do use Cloudflare. The last time I checked, anyways. So just kind of a feather in the cap of Cloudflare. Two really top high traffic sites are using Cloudflare for the exact reasons I'm going to talk about in this video. In any case, under attack mode or development mode, I mainly only use the development mode. Never have I had to use under attack mode. Hopefully you don't either, but just know that that's there in case you know you're getting attacked and you need to just lay down the law in a really heavy way to drop some immediate security onto your website. I usually use development mode quite often when updating a staging environment. Sometimes when updating a production environment, what this allows you to do is disable all of the optimizations that Cloudflare is currently applying to the website, like caching, etc. Because what you'll find is sometimes when you're pushing updates up to your website, by not having that caching and all that stuff turned on, you can just see your updates immediately. If you're not seeing your updates immediately and you have Cloudflare enabled, it's quite possibly because it's cached and it just in here. You can add them to this really nice snazzy interface here. Each record comes with the option just to leave it automatic TTL. This is usually fine unless you remember some of the names. Let's Encrypt is what Google nowadays looks at websites that do browser. That person coming to the website is generally known to have a higher level of threat. You might want to have multiple website. These might be great options to consider.
Hello, we're on our second video in our venture to figure out how Cloudflare workers work. Now, if you've seen our last video, we were able to set up the CLI, and we
I think I'm gonna have to do npm install
a very,
the
very
project
simple worker
first.
function running on Cloudflare. So in this video, I want to to go into a more practical example. So what are we trying to do? In this video, let's do a example app where we query an API. So this will be the mCoin for Bitcoin API from Coinbase. That's public. We can easily get that by doing a search, but I already got the URL. So this is a public API. You don't
know why YouTube does that sometimes, where some videos are just slow to load.
Need any authentication. You can just hit the endpoint and you can get price information about Bitcoin. So that's easier. That's easy. So now how do we get the price of Bitcoin? Well, our goal for this our async function. Content type. Let's call this application JSON. And then let's set the char set to
Hi, I'm Ryan Sumner. I'm a Chief Network Architect with IBM Cloud, and today I'm going to help you answer what is a content delivery network. So in short, a content delivery network, or CDN, is a service that accelerates internet content delivery. So in other words, the main benefit of a CDN is that it makes your website faster. So before I get into describing to you how it accomplishes that and some of the other benefits, first I want to talk to you about some of the challenges that we have where we have users all around the world, but we don't have servers all around the world, and the experience that those users have due to that dynamic. So I've got a simple diagram here showing a server hosted down in Dallas. This is my website. And then I have users all around the world. So in Sydney, I might have 5. In London, I've got 5. New York, I might have 10. LA, I might have 10. So I've got 30 users around the world that are accessing my server and my website down in Dallas. So let's kind of follow a set of these users in their journey. Let's look at their users down in Sydney. They make a request to the website. They've got an 8,600-mile hike to Dallas and then an 8,600-mile hike back. The amount of time that that takes is usually measured in milliseconds, and just that round trip might be about 170 milliseconds. For our users up in London, that might be about 100 milliseconds. Our users in New York City can probably experience about a 40 millisecond round trip time, and over in LA, about 30. So as you can see, the further you're away, the longer it takes, ultimately, the slower the website will be for you. So this is where the CDN comes into play, and this is how it actually accomplishes the increase in speed, which is by reducing the amount of distance between the user and the content, or the server providing the content. So what it does by doing that is it places these content delivery network endpoints in as many locations around the world as possible, and in our case, we're going to assume we've got one in just about every location where our users exist. So now, when the user in Sydney or London or New York City or LA tries to access some content, it's first retrieved by the content delivery network service and then distributed around the world. So we have a single request down to the Dallas server. It's now distributed all around the world, and our users in London now, instead of going all the way to Dallas, they're able to retrieve that content directly from their closest geographical location, drastically reducing the amount of time that it takes to retrieve that content. So as you can see here, it's very basic how a CDN is able to provide the benefits of, to the end user by reducing the amount of time that it takes to deliver the service. But what you're not seeing here is an indirect benefit, is the reduction in the amount of traffic that actually hits the Dallas server. So the indirect benefit is that you actually see a reduction in the load, or a reduction in the amount of capacity that you need in Dallas to serve all these users. So another indirect benefit, because there's much less validity and so much less stuff happening in Dallas, because all these users are having to make these trips, and I'm also not having to communicate with users so far away, the Dallas environment may also see an increase in uptime. And then lastly, because the users are not really directly communicating with the servers down in Dallas, you have the indirect benefit of an increase in security through obscurity. So it's pretty basic to understand how a CDN works, in the end, to provide better benefit to the end user. Thanks for watching this overview of Content Delivery Network. If you liked it or you have any questions, please comment below. Stay tuned for additional videos in the future, and please don't forget to like and subscribe.
But I don't understand though, is where is the source code? Is it in this page, or is this functions being activating this cloud stuff? I think it's better to create a folder called JS and then put all the files for JavaScript inside this folder, just so it's more organized. I also needed to change the place where these graphs are, but I think I will do that only at the end because it's not that important. The priority is for me to figure out this stuff first. Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna follow these steps here. I think a lot of so out F12 goes to the definition. Interesting. Let's save this. Okay, this is good to know. I want to change directory to JS. I'm gonna do this git clone. I haven't initialized it. Now I can clone probably. Oh, I'm copying with this stuff. So I think they recommend to change directory to this Viz network again, and then do the npm install and npm run build. That's probably the best way to do this. And I probably won't be using this file here, but it's good to have. Because I think the functions that I want are going to be inside of the project. And I can just inspect them. But then I have to see as well how to make it work through the Jinja template. I think you can just copy, there's probably an HTML or something like that on the Viz network, on the project. And I think I can just copy that structure and translate that into Jinja. Like merge the two, and then I'll probably will create an extra file instead of modifying the templates one from Pyvis. That way I can compare the two after. Then once I have access to the network object through the Jinja 2 template, then I can do whatever I want, essentially. With the functions. I think I will be right back while this loads. it looks like this is gonna take some time, so I think I'm gonna stop now and come back later. Yeah, it's fine. Or what I'm gonna do is download all this stuff. I think that I'm gonna do this off stream probably. And then once I have everything set up, then I probably going to stream the process of figuring out the objects and this stuff like that. And continue this. So see you.